Julio Jones, Matt Ryan, those guys are flamethrowers. Unbelievable. But are the Atlanta Falcons going to crack any of our power rankings? Kyle Gaffner, James Worthington are both here. I'm Adrian Fedke. Week 4 recap today. It is Wednesday. It is a little bit late, but this is the only day we could really do this week. So with that being said, let's welcome the guys onto the show.
What's up? How you doing, Adrian? What's up, James? How you going?
Great.
Going pretty well. What's going on, guys? Another exciting week of football.
It was a lot of crazy upsets, I think we could say, that happened this weekend, huh?
Yeah, I wasn't too good with my picks.
Oh, yeah, definitely, for sure. So let's get right into it. Power rankings, number 1. All right, so I guess we'll go Kyle, James, and I'll go. So who's number 1 on the list?
Vikings, I'm sticking with it since week 1. I've said week 2, I said they were number 1. I'm sticking with them there. I think they looked incredible this week. That defense is just getting better by the weeks as it's going out. Anthony Barr is turning into a surefire stud this year. I mean, the dude is incredible. Eric Kendricks is coming along, and surprisingly, Sam Bradford, no turnovers yet either, and he's running that offense quite smoothly without that all-pro running back, AP, without them there. So it's running pretty smoothly out there in Minnesota.
Is that your number 1 team too, James?
No, I got the defending Super Bowl champion Denver Broncos there, man. I mean, until you beat them, I really, if they're going to go undefeated this year, probably won't. But 4-0, man, they're the defending champs. Can't argue with that. That defense is historic. It looks like Simeon's been getting better. They've got a good running game. So until Denver takes an L or two, they're going to be my number 1.
Now, these power rankings always are interesting to me because we're going to put Minnesota number 1, Denver number 1, but I don't feel like they're the best teams in the league. So I say fuck it. I'm going Patriots number 1 because they got Tom Brady back. So I'm going to go with them. Should I? Probably not. They're not undefeated. They just lost 16-0 to the Bills, but that's who I'm going to go with. So let's kind of focus on these teams just a little bit more. All right, so let's talk with the Vikings. Okay, so 4-0. Obviously, the defense is playing outstanding. But the thing about Sam Bradford is this. Once the going gets tough, once the pressure starts to mount, he starts to play like shit. Do you guys think that you can kind of rectify that this year?
I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see because you're right. When the pressure does start to come down on him, he kind of gets in his own head and he starts coming unravel. I mean, look what happened this year when the Eagles drafted Wentz. I mean, he just sat there and cried about it. It was like, trade me. I don't want to be here. Fight for your job, man. I want to see you want to see leadership role in your quarterback. You don't want to have something like that. So if you go down and get blown out one week, are you going to sit there and cry and be like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't want to play no more. No, you don't. You want to bounce back, go out there and play football. So until that happens, I don't know, though. Are they going to? They look like they're a well-oiled machine right now.
Well, I mean, that defense is a Super Bowl caliber defense, but Sam Bradford, I think he's always had arm talent. It's just been more of staying healthy and kind of his own head. I like what I've seen so far, but without AP back there, they also lost their left tackle. I think it's going to be tough for Sam Bradford to keep these stats going. I think he's going to be more of a game manager type. But I think the Vikings are going to be there at the end of it in the NFC. That defense, man, that is legit.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think the defense is legit. Definitely top 5 unit, maybe even top 3 for sure. So as for Bradford, I just – when I think of Sam Bradford, I think of big games. I think of choke jobs. And I saw it last year against the Redskins. I mean, how many fucking throws did he miss? Zach Ertz would still be running down the sideline had he hit him down, that go route. He also missed a touchdown throw. I mean, this is something that we talked about today with when I was on The Verdict with Sean Brace. So, Bradford, I mean, he has his high completion percentage, but he still misses some, easy throws. And you can say the same thing about Kirk Cousins too. So it's those two guys, I whatever. All right, so let's get to Denver now. Unbelievable that the fucking Broncos are 4-0. Trevor Siemian, who would have thought? And now Paxton Lynch, he got some time at quarterback because Siemian got hurt. So Broncos, where do you guys see them ultimately kind of ending the season? Are they going to win the division?
I think they might, just because that defense, you can lean on that defense. So I think they'll be there, but it's going to be a tough race with Oakland in there too, because they're playing incredible out there. And if they play the rest of their games on the road, I mean, Oakland, I mean, they're a surefire going to win that division, but they're going to have to start winning games at home. But I think Denver's definitely going to win that division easily. Now, it depends, though, if the injury on Simeon, how significant that's going to be, or how bad it is. I haven't heard or read anything yet, but with Paxton Lynch back there, we might see a little bit of a change, because he was playing great back there. And they were getting into a rhythm, going along with that defense. That offense was doing pretty good too.
Yeah, definitely. Paxton Lynch came in. He looked like he at least knew what he was doing. I know they didn't really open the playbook as much as they do with Simeon with Lynch, but that could come if he has to stay in. I think Simeon's going to be the starter when he's healthy. But that defense, man, just like I said about the Vikings, that is a Super Bowl defense. They won it last year with mediocre quarterback play. So I think the Broncos are going to win the division. I'm pretty disappointed what I've seen with Kansas City so far. I think they might catch fire later in the year. Oakland, they're going to be there too. But I like Denver a lot this year. I don't think there's much of a drop-off offensively. And look, Demaryius and Emmanuel Sanders, they're getting going. C.J. Anderson, they can run the football behind that line. So they're going to be a team to be reckoned with.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. Kansas City, Andy Reid kind of does this every year. It seems like starts slow, then gets hot as the season goes along. Chiefs started 1-2 last year, I believe. They won their last 10 games of the year. Actually, they started
1-5.
Yeah, 1-5.
5-1.
I don't know why I said 1-2, but 1-5, and they won their last 10 games of the year. So, and we've seen that in Philly too. He starts 1-2 in 2003. They go like 12-4. So that's what Andy Reid does. I like the Raiders too. I think it'll come down to the Raiders and Broncos, but I think all three of those teams are potential playoff teams for sure. So that's the way I view that. All right, so Kyle, who do you have number 2 then? Do you have the Broncos?
I'm not going to say Broncos. I have Seattle actually at number 2, just because of the significant injury to Simeon. Even with Lynch back there, he did come in and play pretty good, but I want to see if he can do this week in and week out. Rookie back there, so it's kind of going to depend, but I have Seattle. They are really on a roll. I have them at number 2. They look incredible back there. They finally are getting something out of that trade when they got Jimmy Graham. They're finally starting to integrate him into that offense. You put that along, that offensive line is playing decent, and that defense is really starting to come on a roll. They're a Super Bowl caliber defense too. They have been for years. So look out for them.
Definitely agree with Seattle, but my number 2 team is I think I got Minnesota there. You have them number 1. I have them number 2. Same things we said earlier, dude. The defense, they're 4-0. It just really looks like they're going to be there at the end. So I'm not going to go back on what we said, but Minnesota's my second team.
Yeah, Minnesota is number 2 for me as well. And we talked about them extensively already, so no need to expand further. Seattle, though, is number 3 on my list and number 2 on your list. So we'll talk about them a little bit further. So Russell Wilson injures himself, still plays on Sunday, and it was actually one of the better games I've seen him play. The ball placement was superb in that game against the Jets. Better defenses in the league. So Seahawks, all of a sudden, they kind of flipped a little switch. They look a lot better the last couple of weeks, and I'm with you, Kyle.
There's some continuity to that offensive line now, which was one of the worst lines that we were talking about.
Totally, the line stinks, but
it's been playing a lot better because they've got Christine Michael going a little bit, and they protected pretty well against that Jets defense. That defensive line had absolutely no pressure on Wilson, and with a banged up leg, you would expect them to take advantage of that, and they just didn't.
Yeah, I mean, dude, that defensive line in New York that's one of the best units in the league. And for Seattle's offensive line to hold their own after the first couple of weeks, they really stepped up. I mean, Seattle's going to be there at the end. They always are. Russell Wilson's on his way to a Hall of Fame career. That defense is, like you guys said, has been there. So, yeah, Seattle is definitely a really good team, and they're not going away anytime soon.
Yeah. Are they number 3 on your list? James, who's number 3?
I got Seattle number 3. Yes.
Okay, so I got the Seahawks at number 3 as well. The thing that I will say about obviously that defensive line is outstanding, but when you think of that defensive line, you think more run stuffing than actually pass rushing, and
right.
And obviously they have no outside linebackers there that can cause pressure on the quarterback. They do have
I like Darren Lee a lot.
Yeah, I do too. Todd Bowles, obviously a guy that likes to bring pressure, so in that sense, that's where you kind of need the offensive line. But yeah, I mean, I don't think the Jets' pass rush is like outstanding by any means, but Seahawks still, played himself a good game. So there's that. All right, let's move on to number. Actually, we need Kyle's number 3, right?
Mine was Denver.
All right. So number 4. Number 4. So none of you guys still have the Pats, and I have them at number 1.
They're coming up here, so.
Yeah. Well, I got the Broncos at number 4. We've talked about them. So Kyle, James, who's number 4? Well, James already unveiled his.
Yes.
Mine is Pittsburgh. Looks like they bounced back after getting blown out by Philadelphia the other night. They really took it out on Andy Reid. It looks like that offense was back in sync. Ben Roethlisberger played phenomenal. You got all those weapons there. And the defense, not that you have a great offense out there in Kansas City to stop. You got a banged-up Jamal Charles. They got Kelsey. They pretty much shut Kelsey down with the linebackers. That was good. They didn't have Ryan Shazier even. So it all depends on that defense. It's all going to be relied on that Pittsburgh offense. They're going to carry them because they're a top 5 offense. But they are just – it looks like they had a lot of frustration – only scoring 3 points against Philadelphia, and then they unloaded on a really great defense in Kansas City.
Yeah, Mike Tomlin called it redemption week for them. They definitely redeemed themselves there. And Pittsburgh, like we said in the beginning of the year, I mean, they're going to be there at the end. That offense is unreal. If the defense can play, I mean, I don't know if I see a better team than Pittsburgh in the AFC, but it's going to ride on the defense. My number 4 team is the Patriots. I mean, they went 3-1 without the best quarterback, arguably in the game's history. Their offense, they got LeGarrette Blount going still. Gronk's coming back healthy, and they're going to have the 2 tight end set with Bennett. Edelman's going to be there now that Brady's back. So, I mean, the Patriots are a team that they're going to get on a roll here. I wouldn't be surprised to see them end the season 13, 14 wins, honestly. Like, that's how good I think this Patriots team's going to be.
Yeah, I actually predicted them to go 14-2. So I definitely think a big, nice little stretch is coming up, and that's why I have them at number 1. I mean, to me, they have the most talented team in the league, and you got Brady back. So I kind of just like, that loss they had on Sunday, I just kind of just throw it on the wayside. So that's the way I kind of see it. Number 5. Who's number 5 on your guys' list? Who rounds out the list?
I got the Patriots at number 5.
And we just talked about. All right, yeah, we'll get your thoughts on the Patriots.
I really like the Patriots. I was really surprised because I had them going 2-2 in that stretch when they didn't have Tom Brady, but they went 3-1. And that loss to Buffalo, you do have to take it down by the wayside. They had Jacoby Brissett in there. I think they would have been a better game if they had Jimmy Garoppolo in there. Be it as it may, it's a great talented defense. You're going to get Tom Brady back. He's ready to go. He's going to unleash. He's been sitting there for 4 weeks. He's dying to get back on the field. But they got LeGarrette Blount, Gronk, and Bennett was a great signing, I think, and you still got Edelman back there. This team is something to be reckoned with. They'll be in the AFC Championship, I think, facing Pittsburgh, actually.
Yeah.
Just wait till John Lewis back, too, man. He's going to be a game changer when he's healthy.
Oh, yeah, because then you got the Thunder and the Lightning with he can catch out of the backfield. He's kind of like their Kevin Falk back in the day.
Deion Lewis is, like, sneaky, really, really good, but he's never healthy. But he's, like, so fucking good when he plays.
That's an injury bug has plagued him throughout his career.
Yeah, it's bad. Yeah. James, who's your number 5?
Well, I mean, my heart's telling me to go Eagles. So I'm going with the Eagles there just because they did beat Pittsburgh. But, Pittsburgh, I play them in a neutral site. That might be a different game. But I think that I have the Eagles at number 5, man. Their defense is playing out of this world. I think they have the best front 4 in the league. Carson Wentz is everything I thought he would be and more. I've been a Wentz supporter since we traded up for him. We just need the receivers to catch the balls a little better, maybe the deep ball. I know DGB and Matthews have had a couple drops. We need to keep the running game going. Something to keep an eye on is the Lane Johnson suspension. I know he's expected to play Sunday, but once he's out, they're talking about putting that rookie tackle in. I can't even say
that scares the fuck out of me. Halapulu Vaitai.
I feel like we should Barber Wisniewski in at guard. Wisniewski's experienced. He's a veteran. He's not bad. They just like the way Barber's playing at guard, so they're testing that guy out.
And it's a shame because Lane Johnson's been their best offensive lineman all year, up to date.
For sure.
Yeah, he's having a big year. I don't trust Big V at right tackle. I'll tell you that right now. That is the guy if you remember during the preseason, Wentz, the play where he scrambled to his right immediately and threw the ball on the sideline, Big V did not get out of his stance.
Nope, I remember that, dude. That play, I was like, unreal, man. That was unfathomable to me. And he's got slow feet, too. I don't
think he's any good. I don't think he's any good. So
gonna get burned
I just put Wisniewski. I'm with you there. Just fuck that. Put Barber in the tackle. So that's the way I would look at it. So I actually went with the Eagles number 5 too. I didn't want to, because I'm still wow, we're 3-0 plus 65-point differential. I'm just waiting to come back down to reality, and it hasn't happened yet. It hasn't. So, and Carson Wentz, man, he looks every bit as good as that number 2 overall selection. I mean, if you want to talk about Wentz wagon and being on the Wentz wagon, I wanted to trade back in the first round, back in fucking November, December. I've been high on Carson Wentz for a while. I did used to write for a place called the Sports Network. We covered the FCS, so I knew all about him. And I see this kid. I'm like, holy shit, man! Am I the only one that sees this? And then all of a sudden he rises up the fucking draft charts. I will always take credit for Carson Wentz. I will always do it. So there's that. I mean, if you go back to November, watch our videos. We were talking about Carson Wentz. All right. I want to focus on the Falcons, okay? Because they did not make any of our lists, and that's interesting. Matt Ryan throws for 500 yards. Julio Jones gets 300 receiving yards, which is insane. They beat up on the Panthers. They're 3-1. Matt Ryan looks like the best quarterback in the league right now, and yet they're not getting any respect from us or the rest of the United States. Why is that?
Well, I think one is because they've always put up gaudy numbers, I feel, all the time. And I don't know what's happened to the Cardinals or the Panthers. They just look like completely different teams out there. But that defense is atrocious. They have to score 50 points in order to win games, because the Panthers almost came back in that game with a backup quarterback in Derek Anderson. So I don't think you get too excited about that. I mean, they're fun to watch because they're putting up highlight plays all the time. I cannot believe Julio Jones went for 300 yards. But for him to have one touchdown was kind of disappointing, I thought.
He doesn't score a lot of touchdowns. That's his thing. That's my thing with him. He's only scored double-digit touchdowns once
in his whole career. So that was kind of disappointing to see. But if you look at that tape, I mean, what the hell was going on with the Panthers defense? Sean McDermott, after he had 3 or 4 catches for what he had a $170 at halftime, and you didn't adjust. You still left one-on-one coverage. You left these guys out on an island, and they're 1 and 2 year starters. They're young bucks.
Yeah, I mean, what I'll say about Atlanta is, they have a defensive coach in Dan Quinn. But, they just lost Sean Weatherspoon for the year, ruptured Achilles. They got a good corner in Trufant, but besides that, their defense really isn't that good. Their offense is incredible, but they did this last year. They started off 5-0. Their offense was moving the ball. We'll see. I don't know. Is Kyle Shanahan, was he a new hire, or is he second year?
Second year.
Yeah, second year.
Coordinator. It looks like Matt Ryan looks a lot more comfortable in the system.
Mm-hmm.
You got Julio Jones, you got those running backs back there, and their offensive line's playing really well. Also, Jacob Tamme, freaking journeyman tight end, man, coming out of nowhere with 8 targets a game. So I like what I'm seeing, but I just don't believe in their defense. I think eventually Carolina rights the ship and gets going again. And Arizona, their issues are offensively, and a lot of it's really what I'm seeing is Palmer's just not playing that good. So we'll see about them, but their defense is still there.
Yeah. Yeah, they had some lapses against the Rams defensively, though. They played well. Yeah, go ahead.
No, they did have some lapses, but, that's going to happen in football. Also, the Rams are out of nowhere, man. They're starting to play a lot better, which is crazy. But
yeah, it's funny. And I still think they stink.
I think they stink, but they could be realistically 5-1, and after, because they got 2 not terrible games coming up.
Yeah.
But I think with Arizona, they have all the talent in the world. It's just they got to play. They got to stop having these mental lapses going on defensively and offensively. It's just Palmer needs to play better. I mean, the running game's been decent so far. I haven't seen too many of their games, but I've seen the stats. And David Johnson's putting up stats. It looks like Chris Johnson. I know he's out for the year. He was doing all right as a backup. So I think both those teams right the ship, but it might be a little late. Arizona could end up with 10 wins and out with how good this conference is looking.
Like a couple years ago when that happened.
Yeah.
They went 10 wins and did make the playoffs.
Now only 2 wild cards. It's very realistic possibility because you got Seattle and Arizona, and then you got Green Bay and Minnesota. So like that right there, like getting past those 2 teams for first thing.
Yep.
And so 10-6. I mean, it may not get you in the postseason.
And you're in the toughest division.
Man, they might very. And I don't want to see Dallas with 10 wins, but they look pretty good so far. I know they haven't played anybody really, but
yeah. I'll say this about Atlanta. I'm taking a wait and see approach because I've seen this script before. So and I'm not big on the defense. So Desmond Trufant's basically the only defensive player that they have, like at least Studley one.
Yes.
They moved Vic Beasley from defensive end to outside linebacker. I don't know if they're still doing that. I don't know why they decided to do that during the preseason. I guess they said something about like him getting off blocks. He couldn't get off blocks last year because he was like too small.
Yeah, because he's
small. So they moved him outside linebacker. What the fuck? That's stupid to me.
It is stupid.
Yeah.
That's an excuse.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm not buying what Atlanta's doing. I still have a feeling they're not going to make the postseason. I just wait. I'm not high on them.
They're in a very weak division, so it could possibly be. It depends how long it's going to take for Carolina to really turn this thing around. If that defense looks atrocious, it doesn't look like that defense that carried them to 15-1 last year. And now with Cam banged up, he might be out a couple games with concussion protocol. So you're going to have Derek Anderson. You've got no running game. I could easily see this happen. I could easily see Atlanta taking the South.
Yeah. Let's get to Carolina and Arizona just for 1 second, because these are teams that were heavy favorites heading into the season, right?
Yep.
All of a sudden, when you're labeled as a favorite, things change, and the pressure starts to mount a little bit more. When you're playing like Panthers last year, Arizona Cardinals last couple years, Arizona has always had to beat Seattle, and you know, they've always kind of been in the background, so to speak. And now they're in the forefront. You and I, we both picked them to go to the Super Bowl. So there is a difference between like being a favorite and being able to handle it, because we're not seeing it right now. Although these teams are talented.
They're talented, but now that the spotlight's on you, you have to perform. You're expecting big things to happen. Now that you've been noticed finally, as you had touched on, they've been in the background. They really haven't picked to be Super Bowl contenders up until these past 2 years, and now that they are, they're not performing. Now you get the mental game going on. You're not performing. The media starts chattering, and it's just a bad recipe. And the same with Carolina. Whenever you're carefree out there, so you don't have to be as stringent with your play. But now look at it. They're both 1-3. You really have to start cracking it down. It may be a little too early, but I don't know. You're in a very tough division for the Cardinals. You got Seattle, and don't count out Los Angeles. I mean, they always play the Cardinals in Seattle very, very tough. So, they might look like easy wins on on paper, but they're not. They beat both of those teams. That's 2 big division wins for them.
Yeah. I mean, the thing with Arizona is it seems like in the playoffs, Palmer's never really stepped up for them. So maybe now the pressure's on, that could explain why he is struggling. I mean, he has a concussion. He's been ruled out for tomorrow. So maybe that'll give him a week to just kind of get his head together and listen, man, like he's like a 10, 12, 13-year vet.
Yeah, he's like 36 years old.
And he's coming to the end of his career, so that's got to be in the back of his mind too.
Exactly. And with Carolina, I mean, I think they do really miss Josh Norman, which I'm surprised. I thought Josh Norman was more of a product of scheme, but it's looking like, I mean, Julio just put him for 300. They really haven't been good against the pass all year. And Cam Newton, man, I mean, he's got to stop taking these unnecessary hits. Like even against that hit against Atlanta, and there's a hit the same kind of thing against the Saints. He slows up going into the end zone and just gets leveled. Like
Yeah,
he's
what
got
the heck
stops
was
to hit the
that?
quarterback. It was unreal to me. I saw it happen and was like, "What are you doing? You're going to get yourself killed." And he had a concussion, got it taken out of the game. So he's got to be smarter, man. I know he's probably the biggest guy on the field, but doesn't mean you can't get hurt.
I think that's what it is. I think he thinks he could just knock everybody over because of his size, but you're being so indecisive. Either slow up or cut right or just plow him over. The same Andrew Luck did the same thing in the first couple of years of his career, but now it looks like he's starting to protect himself, and Cam's going to have to start doing the same thing. Ron Rivera better get in his ear because you're the franchise right here. You got to protect yourself. The game hinges on your team winning with you, so if you're out, I don't see anything. I don't see them winning because they don't have a run game to lean back on. So if Cam's out, what are they going to do? They're not going to be winning any games, I don't think, at all.
Yeah, interesting team. They went 15-1 last year. I'm just like watching this team, like, God, they're not a 15-1 team. I wasn't buying them last year, and they still made it to the Super Bowl. And now they're starting to show, a little bit what I thought they were, but obviously missing Josh Norman. I mean, your quarterbacks right now are Ben Wickery, who I kind of like a little bit, and James Bradbury is a rookie, and they just have nothing. So this is a huge problem for them. And I don't know what their pass rushing stats are this year.
It's decent.
Decent?
Yeah.
Because, they obviously don't have that pair of Charles Johnson, Greg Hardy anymore, causing havoc. Charles Johnson, kind of on the downside of his career now too. So, I mean, I know they got Kawan Short in the middle. He's a stud. So I don't know what their stats are, but they gotta get to the quarterback a little bit more so you can help out those cornerbacks.
And you're not right. They're not drawing up a scheme either because even do a little bit more of a zone play and get your safeties to help out with these young kids. Because if you're not getting the pass rush, they're going to be even more exposed just because being young players. And if you're not getting a pass rush, it's not like they have Julius Peppers and Mike Ruckers back there with Chris Jenkins back in the day, or even Charles Dodson for a new era. And their linebackers, they're starting to blitz a little bit more off of them. They don't use Shaq Thompson that much. He was a high draft pick. So Ron Rivera is going to have to figure something out because I don't think they're going to win that division this year, especially with Cam out now. And he's not playing like the MVP like he was last year either.
Yeah, I agree. He hasn't been as good. I'm still not ready to count him out for the division just because I do expect Atlanta to kind of regress a little bit. But, I mean, yeah, to help those corners out, they need to get pressure on the quarterback. That's exactly what the Eagles are doing. Whether Carolina blitz or not, the Eagles have a good enough defensive line and scheme. They really don't have to blitz to put pressure on the quarterback. But, I mean, that's the way you win games. I mean, you saw Eli against Minnesota Monday night. They were getting in his face. He was throwing the ball into the dirt, didn't want to take a hit because he was scared. He didn't want to get hit. So, I mean, if Carolina's going to get that defense going, it's got to start up front, man. It's got to start with up front, and it's got to start with some blitzing.
Yeah, I'm with James. I think Carolina still wins the division just because the division isn't good. I'm not sold on Atlanta. I'm not an Atlanta Falcons guy. They might prove me wrong. So that's my thing with that. So if they were in the West or if they were in the North, they wouldn't win the division. But since they're in the South, I still think they can 10-6 ish. Can still win that thing. So I think that's what will happen. All right, so let's get to final thoughts, or if anything else is on your mind that you want to talk about, let's get into that because we got to get out of here. We got the wild card game at 8 o'clock, and Kyle and I need to do a Joel Embiid show.
I am really, really getting a little pissed off with all these rules that they have anymore. It's Flag City anymore when I watch football. They gotta toe back on some of this stuff, and they don't even let these guys celebrate anymore. I don't like this new rule where you get 2 unsportsmanlike conducts and then you get kicked out. If it's a worthy unsportsmanlike conduct, okay, that's fine. But Josh Norman got one when he shot a bow and arrow after making a pick. This, what the hell is that? These guys are getting stupid penalties. They're not even doing anything. They're so controlling with it, and it's kind of not fun to watch because it's an emotional sport. You get jacked up. you should be allowed to show some emotion, but it's just like they're slapping them with everything. So they're kind of taking the fun out of it, I think, a little bit. And these penalties with the pass interference, I'm over it. I mean, these guys are barely touching each other. Ugh, ran over. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with this. They should be able to celebrate as long as it's not excessive. It's an emotional game. It's an It's for our entertainment. The NFL prides itself on being an entertainment industry. Let them entertain us, you know? Pass interference calls, yeah, you basically can't touch a receiver anymore. It's basically the rules are in place to help the receivers. And the one other thing I'd say about the officiating is they just seem to be more consistent. The first hit on Odell Beckham Jr., I thought it was a little bit late. He didn't flag it, but I've seen other games that hit like that get flagged. So it's just they need to be more consistent with it and more clearly define the rules. And then, I mean, I just got to mention him. I mentioned him the first week. Will Fuller, man. The guy come out the gates. He's got to be up there for Rookie of the Year with Wentz and Dak and Zeke and all them. But, I mean, Will Fuller was what? He was a 21st, 22nd overall pick. And the guy has just come and really stepped up. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins, he only saw one target last week. Granted, they're probably doubling him, but that he should open more things up for DeAndre because these defenses can't ignore Will anymore, man. You let him get over the top. He's got some of the fastest wheels in the league.
Dude, I am 100% in agreement with Kyle on the penalties. I was watching that Ravens-Raiders game earlier today, like condensed huddles. Like I watch all the games and shit. Dude, it seemed like there's a flag like every 2 or 3 plays. Like there's no flow to some of these games because it's flag happy, and I hate it. And there's nothing worse than a pass interference penalty where you barely touch a guy, but you gain like 30 yards because of that shit. I don't know. You can't play physical anymore, and I don't like it because it's not football. Like, you gotta let them play, Shit.
There's more contact, I feel, in basketball, for God's sakes. It's sad. Like, you don't even have to draw plays. Literally just bomb it, and you're going to get a pass interference call. 50 yards down the field. It's like, play.
Might as well just throw it up and hope for one.
That's what it seems like.
So, all right. That's about it for this week. We might be doing Mondays now from now on these recaps. We'll see how shit goes. But with that being said, Kyle Gaffner, James Worthington, I'm Adrian Fedke. Week 4 in the books. Quarter of the way through the season, kind of. I mean, I know they have 17 weeks, but basically a quarter of the way into the season. Only 2 teams had bye weeks last week. So 30 of the 32 teams have played 4 games. Crazy, man. Crazy. Already a month into the year. So we are out. Stay tuned next week, and hopefully you guys enjoyed the show. Peace.
Later, guys.